Yes. Going. Toilet flushing upstairs. Everything is just like the Supreme Court in here. Did you hear about that? The live recording of the Supreme Court. They let people watch the Supreme Court live audio, and there was a toilet flushing somewhere in the building. It was like very undignified for it to happen. Okay, so we left off on a return from Arlandweir towards Saltwall. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goats. The last goat in the train, or probably not at the very end, but we have our 2 recovered prisoners and provisions on the last goat. And the rest of you guys, it's fair to say that everybody, especially Paiviki, is pretty exhausted at the end of this journey. And you have, let me remind you of the landscape that we're looking at here. So you're coming along the coastline from Arlandweir. So this is looking towards Arlandweir, away from Saltwall, basically. And this whole, there's a section of this middle, usually there's a track that runs along this kind of shelf on the coast here. And just because of the spring rains and runoff, a whole section of it kind of had slid down into the water. So you basically had to go up to the next plateau. So that diverted your course a little bit. So you're crossing this relatively open plateau, and this is probably late afternoon. You figure you're supposed to get to Saltwall by dusk. So we have our goat train. We have Upajai in the lead. Taimi, Muirin, Palvinder is sort of in Paiviki zone with the pack goat that has the freed people on it. And Taimi, as you're crossing this kind of, it's like this long downward slope, and in the distance, the landscape kind of lightens up, and you can see the kind of sun just shining on the light-colored buildings of Saltwall. So you can actually see Saltwall in the distance. There's very few trees. It's mostly low scrub, somewhat rocky terrain, and the goats are, it's no problem at all for the goats. They're just like hopping and bounding across it. And at a certain point, Taimi, you notice off to the right, about 100 yards, that you guys are being paced by what looks like a very large cat.
Do I recognize the species from my years as a hunter?
That's a really good question. I think you could answer that question, and it would be within the not necessary to establish it. I think I would let you decide whether Taimi had ever encountered this creature before.
We're pretty far away from Rayuna. I'm gonna say on a 5 or 6, I do know it.
Okay, sure.
Nope, I don't know it.
Okay. What about cats in general? What about feline creatures? Is this like a whole new thing for Taimi to see this?
No, I'm sure that it resembles some sort of 4-legged, some sort of like lupine. Is that like the fox adjective?
Lupine is like wolf. Yeah, I think fox falls into that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, something like a fox or a wolf. It probably has a shorter face, but it probably has like a similar build or similar like proportion set. So it's probably not super foreign, but I don't know if I've ever seen like a panther or a puma or a
Okay, great.
catamount.
Yeah, so that might be the weird thing about it, is it has like a snub face compared to something with a more pointy snout, and it's moving very gracefully, and it sort of is bounding along, and it's clearly either thinks that you don't see it. It clearly is stalking you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You as the hunter, it's very, very obvious to you, and it is the size of a big panther, essentially.
I'd give like the signal, or I try to wave my arms for Muirin and Paiviki, and then like give the PowerPoint like a 4-finger PowerPoint to the creature, and say, and maybe fall back, so that I'm alongside them. The beast has been following us for a little bit of time. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if it poses a danger.
Palvinder, follows your direction and nods her head and says, yes, they prowl these highlands looking for the slower or older. And then she gives a glance at she sort of rides her goat back to get behind the provision, the last goat in the train, and suggests that you get your bow at the ready, since you're the only one with a long range weapon.
Yeah, I'll get my bow at the ready.
Yeah, so she drops back to kind of protect the last goat there, which is the slowest one. And let's see, who's got the lowest luck?
Paviki has a crossbow too.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm confused about the numbers because there's where are the 2 people or the 3 people we are bringing back?
Oh, I guess right. There's 3. There's what's his name, the other guy. Oh, Palvinder is the guy. Jaspinder is the
warrior.
Yeah, that's right. They're all goat riders, but Palvinder's the guy with the eye patch.
Oh, really? All 3 prisoners were goat riders? I thought that only...
Sorry. One of the prisoners is a goat rider. So there's 3 goat riders with you right now. There's the 2 you are with, and then him. And then the other 2 are just villagers, commoners.
Yeah.
Older women. They are both on... they're riding the goat that had the supplies on it. So they're both on that. And then I'm going to say Jaspinder and Upajai are both on the same goat as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I had forgotten about Palvinder, eye patch guy. Right, so you got the crossbow, and it looks like the person with the lowest luck is Muirin. So, actually, no, it's not a luck roll. There's a special move just for this to see how the thing acts, which is check reaction. So actually, I'm going to have Tiny do this. I'm going to roll 2d6 straight up, no modifier.
That's an 8.
Okay. So it basically keeps pace with you. But because of the way that you and Jaspinder are basically guarding that slowest goat, it never, there are moments where it kind of pauses and kind of evaluates, and it basically just keeps pace with you for 2 hours, always at a distance of about 100 yards, just looking for an opportunity, and you guys don't, as far as it's concerned, it's like this is some kind of herd, and it's looking for anything that looks like a lagger. So you make it back to Saltwall with no incident. It leaves you alone, but you know that they're out there. And you make it back to town as the sun is setting, and I think, let me think, the sun is actually setting ahead of you on the far side of the village. So it's setting off. There's the far distance rises up into kind of hills past that big river that you came down originally. So the sun's setting over there. Beautiful dark blue skies as you guys ride back into town. There's a goat rider out on patrol as usual, and they ride back to announce that you've returned. And once again, a hero's reception awaits you.
Yay.
Everybody in the village turns out, and there's like people are throwing flowers, and there's cheering, and they're playing music and beating on their drums, and everybody's kind of escorted into the I guess the kind of main place of reception would be the common house, the village common house, where most of the food and drink is served. So you're helped off of your goats and unburdened of your gear, and Admaya and everybody else shows up. There's our friends. Yeah, so Admaya and Locke are there. The rescued people are chatting amongst the Venati, and all the sort of tales of your exploits are being shared around. Quan is there as well, so Quan comes and greets you, and is there's just great much rejoicing.
Yay!
Occurs. The people that you rescued have family, and they're all there. So you definitely get the sense that I don't know if Taimi gets the sense. No, Wisdom 6. Muirin especially gets the sense that the emotional tide in the village has turned, whereas before, when you guys first arrived, there was a real kind of distress, and somebody had been killed. There was a lot of sorrow and anger and frustration, and now with everything that's happened with the the word giver and her cadre kind of imprisoned, or at least held captive, and now with the return of these missing villagers, Muirin, you get the sense that things have really shifted, and the feeling in the village is bright.
Can I thank Quan for watching or helping to watch the people while we were gone?
Yeah, and Quan has something to share with you on that front. So there's maybe a moment in the drinks are being passed around, food's being roasted on the fire. There's lots of smoked fish and fruit, and so you're sort of telling Quan a little bit about what happened, and then it gets to the point where Quan fills you in on what's been going on since you had left. And the main thing, it's only been it's been 4 days, I think, since you guys were here last. Do you all remember when you basically captured the word giver and her gang? There was that one guy that tried to leave, and Hibiki had to stop him.
Yeah.
He tried to escape from captivity. He tried to overpower the Venati. If we go to the so they're being held down here, down this little area here. There's sort of no way in and out. There's no way to kind of climb up or down. So there's just this one stairwell, and there's usually there's always a pair of guards on duty there. And this guy tried to overpower them and almost knocked one off the cliff before he was kind of forced back down the stairs. So that was the big event that happened while you left. And Quan raises the issue with you, Muirin, that in the long term, they're going to have to figure out what to do with these captives, right? You guys are, of course, concerned that if they get out, they will return north and spread word of what's happened here. But there is this problem of what's gonna, they're being fed and taken care of, but they are in this confined space, and it's an indefinite kind of internment that they're in there. So Quan kind of, raises that question with you and says, something's going to have to be done eventually about this. Do you have any thoughts about it?
That's very troubling to hear, and I'm happy that no one was seriously injured, but yeah, we should probably speak with the leaders and try to find out who we can let go and who we need to keep. If they're, and see if they're even open to that discussion. What is the state of this that worker now? How is he further subdued? Is he locked in like his own room now, or? Yes,
they've shut him in one of the
okay.
They've locked him in one of the buildings down there.
Okay, and he can't speak to anyone.
Well, he can shout through the door to his compatriots, but they don't appear to have a high opinion of him either.
Oh, no one. Okay.
They get the impression that that within that group, he is definitely the kind of the least connected part of that group of people.
Is anyone else like trying to be extra nice to be released, or has anyone spoken?
Elisa, the word giver, has requested an audience with Atmaya, but it has not been granted because they wanted to wait until you guys were back. So Atmaya has requested that. Everybody else seems to be behaving. Quan says that just gonna find my notes here. Here we go. So there are two. So there's the guy that tried to escape. His name is Sammy. And there's another person named Root, and she is also just super kind of. She's the next. The guard's guess is that she would be the next person to try to escape because she's just like really nasty. Everybody else appears to be pretty much kind of just sitting with their lot. Nobody else is agitating or obviously super angry. They're just kind of resigned, I guess I should say. And Elisa has requested an audience. Oh, and Elisa's assistant, Ilmater, who got poisoned by Muirin's sleeping, or her death, the death toxin that was supposed to just put her to sleep, did recover. So Ilmater did not have any lasting effects. So there's 8 people down there in that area. But Muirin says, yes, I'm sure that Maya and Locke will want to speak to you about it, but that's for tomorrow. Now you should rest and enjoy yourself. And toast your success with a drinking horn of the honey mead. Taimi, Anika is very happy to see you. Was very bummed to not be able to accompany you, but and now that you're back, is just like, tell me everything. Did you kill any of them? Did you kill any of those? She uses some colloquial term.
Yeah. and she thinks about it for a little bit, knowing that that Annika's on the same page as her, and that she would have had this moment to rid the world of one more word keeper. And so she as much as she can muster, being, or the lie says, the chance eluded me. However, we did engage them in combat, and in the tussle, I stole their powerful weapons and these, and I'd like you to have them. And I give her the bag of the glass beads.
Great. And she looks at them. And she's like, "Oh," and she sort of picks them up and like lets them fall through her fingers. Pretty.
Yeah. What do they look like? Paint a picture.
They're actually like, well, to you, because glass is rare, they seem like kind of blobby, like blobby gemstones or something like that. Or I guess you might think of them as like resin, right? Like I'm trying to think of what a comparable thing that you would have encountered in the natural world. Mm-hmm. But it was explained to you probably by Muirin that they are actually glass, and they look like they're basically the drippings from a glass blowing kind of thing, where so like a little blob has dropped off and been snipped, so they're just kind of like odd shaped. There are different colors, and they are they're very shiny and clear, so they have that kind of gem-like quality to them. Mm-hmm. But Muirin made it clear to you that they're definitely not gemstones.
Sorry, the cat is muscling her way into the room.
Yeah, so Annika's very pleased to have a gift, a memento.
Yeah, and I tell her the tale, and I go through all highlighting the footprints of the, don't say it.
Yeah. I'm sure you pronounce it.
Soax Yamas, the tooth haver.
Nice, yeah.
And I talk about the giant, the haunted head, and I tell her about the cat creature. And just describe like the idea of a city, that sprawls out as far as the eye can see, like fields and bridges and houses and neighborhoods, and I've never seen so many people, and I just.
So she like grabs you. At a certain point, she just grabs you by the whatever whatever your tunic is or whatever, and just says, next time, you're not leaving me behind. There's so much to see in this world.
There is, but there was only so many goats on this adventure. Well, the journey was hard, even with the beasts. You would not have been able to keep up, and the beast would not have bore both our weights. But next time.
And when will that be? What will we do next?
The others seem to have be more worse for wear after the journey there and back, and Topias has still to heal. I suspect we will spend some time here in the city, and then we'll formulate our next move. There's many great beasts and mysteries still in this region that I'm curious about before we move on.
It is nice here. They're kind people.
They are.
They've taken good care of us, especially Topias. They have that woman Locke, who I did not trust at first, has visited Topias every day and cared for his injury.
I just hope that what we've done here will help the Venati escape the same future that Rayuna had, being under the thumb of the word giver. But misfortune still might fall this place. Perhaps we've just delayed the inevitable.
But maybe we can do something about it.
I lean in and conspiratorially ask, what of the prisoners? Do they still live?
Trouble. And then she tells you the same stuff that Quan related to.
Hmm. I think that they should have killed them all.
Yeah, she spits on the ground.
Yeah.
We will rid the world of them, especially if we have the help of the great Paiviki. And she says great in kind of an ironic way, not like a mocking, mean way, but like, noting that like the legend has grown.
Yeah.
and pointedly looks over to another part of the courtyard where Paiviki and Topias and Durbin is, they're all kind of hanging out, and there's a little bit of chat in crude Venati, and Topias is getting the rundown, and there's a whole kind of huddle of Venati gathered around Paiviki. Although does Paiviki have the energy to regale, or?
She's trying her best to, make a good face, and she doesn't want the rumor to go around. She's hoping that Upajai is not going to be telling all the stories about her falling off over and over again. And
so you actually see Upajai in another part of the courtyard doing exactly that. Upajai is just like, and then like boom, like telling the whole story, and like, but like with great and Upajai notices that you're noticing, and like comes over and like, when you're sitting down, Upajai is your height level, fully standing, comes over and like embraces you and like pats you on the chest and says like, and in Venati, very fast Venati basically talks about, and then, this giant, continued riding on the goat despite how sore she was. And
right.
and there was this moment, and then she tells a story about how there was that herd of animals that was rushing across there was this moment where I was sure that this visitor from the north, the great Paiviki, would finally be trampled to her death. And in that moment, she recalled and then she goes, or whatever, and like a goat that's outside the courtyard jumps up on the courtyard wall. She gives a little command to a goat, and the goat does that. And then she just describes how Paiviki, just at the last moment, managed to talk the goat into running, and there's like great uproarious laughter, and everybody's
right,
very happy. So your reputation is not besmirched so much as improved by this event.
Right. Yeah, she's trying to catch a spin on how she can work with the whole like funny aspect of being like the big clumsy human. I think she had to fight so much back in Rayona as an orphan to make her way, that she's not used to like having anybody make fun of her, but she can see how it will work in her favor under the circumstances. So she's kind of like, yeah, and she makes the sound again, like.
And the goat just kind of turns his head a little bit and then hops off the courtyard wall.
I think she would even clown around a little bit and kind of like, pretend to be like falling over and like getting back up and making like she had a sore back and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, great, awesome. Yeah, so then the night winds down, night falls. Everybody kind of turns in, unless there's any kind of immediate business people wanted to tackle. Is there anything outstanding before we
not
fade
tonight,
to the next
no.
day? Okay. Yeah, so the next day, another beautiful morning on the seaside, and I know some of you are probably sleeping in. I don't know. Is Muirin a light sleeper? Is Muirin like the kind of elf that's up before dawn? Yeah. So maybe one of the first things we see in the morning of the village is like the figure of Muirin kind of, moving from one place to another. Maybe just, taking a look out at the water. Yeah. What is Muirin doing so early in the morning? Your mic's on. Your mic's off. Sorry.
Maybe like a form of appreciation and prayer, and then some kind of exercise activity, maybe like stretching, or I don't know, something that's like peaceful, and listening.
Mm.
Mm.
To the sound of the waves below and the seabirds.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the first, yeah, as people are kind of waking up and starting to go about their business. Great. Then you smell wood smoke. You know, everybody wakes up, and then around midday, at Maya is ready to meet with you guys to discuss the situation, the current situation. And for this conversation, it's actually over in this little area here. Between these buildings, there's like a nice little grove of trees there. It's shady, so at around midday, there's a nice quiet spot. A blanket's put out with various foods for you to eat, and everybody kind of sits around on the ground. And at Maya and Locke kind of raise the question of, first they repeat their gratitude for what you have done, and they acknowledge that you may not be sticking around because you guys are just outsiders, and they don't expect you to kind of. They make it clear that they don't that you're not obligated to aid them further, but they do sort of want your kind of opinion about what should be done, because they've never been in this kind of situation before where they've had to deal with captives, and especially Corkine. And they kind of think of you as people who are a little wiser to the wider world, so they kind of want your counsel on the situation. So the question is raised: what do we do with these people?
If nobody jumps in, Taimi would, wait for a second and then lean forward and say, I hold to my prior belief that you should kill them. Their continued survival will only strain your resources and increase the potential for trouble. I know it sounds unkind, but these people intend unkind things to you.
Locke gestures towards the statue of Mukata, which from where you're sitting, you can see the big statue there on the edge of the cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and says, the mother of the sea would never murder the helpless.
No.
And so we may not.
I didn't think that I needed to say my piece.
I wonder if there is an island that they could be left on to fend for themselves, to farm, or
Oh, wow.
That you could give them some supplies but not have to tend to them daily. I think that there is some value to having prisoners. If at some point the Corkine will return, and for you to have the prisoners under your power does give you some bargaining, and also some bargaining to know that they were treated fairly. May also serve you in future negotiations.
So we are thinking in that case, it could be months or even, years before they come again. So we would be feeding and caring for these 8 other people, and in that time, in this small space, I fear for what that would do to their minds.
Yeah.
We can hear Alice. Sorry, what's her
Elisa, yeah.
Elisa. We could hear her side of it. See what she wants.
She has requested to speak to me.
Oh.
We could fetch her now.
Taimi's expression darkens, and she says, "She'll only tell you what you want to hear." I can't imagine what she would tell us that would shed light on the situation, besides anything that would benefit her.
I believe her to be an honorable person. In the dealings we had with her before the accident, she seemed honorable. We were unhappy with their presence and with the. Oh yeah, and I should also say that the entire the building that was being built has been completely taken down. So the structure has been removed. Yeah.
Can I retroactively ask a question?
Yeah.
How who's with us? Is it just Locke and Atmaya?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. When
three of you, Locke and Atmaya, and there's Quan would be there if you wanted Quan to be there, but not necessary. But only if you wanted.
I would love to make a roll to kind of when I was kind of saying that we should kill them, and Locke said, the goddess wouldn't let us. If I could read the other two's faces. I should have said something in the moment.
Yeah, sure.
Is it okay to retroactively do that?
The other two being?
Quan and Atmaya.
Yep.
What would that be?
That's a wisdom roll.
Wisdom roll? Get ready. I'm doing it for the fiction, guys. Oh, 10!
-1 is 9, right?
No. I rolled an 11. -1 is 10.
Oh, what? There's a moment of incredible insight where Taimi lays it on the line and then looks around and is like, God damn it, nobody else here was a murderer. They are you totally get the read that Atmaya and Quan are politely tolerating your perspective.
Okay.
Get it? They're not, they don't think you're stupid, they don't think you're like a barbarian, but they sort of do this we hear what you are saying. And neither one of them you it's very clear to you that neither one of them agrees with your thoughts.
Got it. Thank you very much. Sorry for looking back.
No, that was great. That kind of thing is totally fun.
Insightful.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Gilligan Islanding these fools.
Yeah. I have another thought related to the safety of Salt Wall, which would be setting up a camp along the main road coming to Salt Wall that can have people take turns being there, so that assuming Korkeen come from the north, that the people in the camp can go with goats and get to Salt Wall before the Korkeen do, and give them a warning, so everyone can prepare.
So an outpost, like a watch post, basically.
Yeah.
This is wise. I had not thought of that. It will be done.
The Korkeen, as far as we know, have no animals like the goat riders, so they can they could get to town before the Corkine could.
Yes, yes, we could easily outrun them. That is one great advantage we have.
And Jaspinder and Upajai have shown to be great scouts, so they would know how to do such a thing.
All of our riders would be capable in that role. This is a good measure for us to take.
The question becomes what to do when the Corkine do show up.
When they do come.
Yeah.
Well, we have time to make those plans. I am concerned that we will not be able to. It's one thing to keep these prisoners from spreading the word, but villagers do come and go from Saltwall. And our community is small, and I have made it clear to everyone to not speak of what happened. But people know that the Corkine were here. So if travelers arrive and discover that they're gone, there will be questions raised. In that way, word will may eventually spread back.
Well, we must come up with a good story.
You, my friend, are good at stories.
I think about the traders from Uzbek. Perhaps they can be implicated in the fate of the Corkine outpost. Although I don't know how that would necessarily help in the long run.
Yes, and to get them to agree to that, maybe. There's only one trader who comes to us from Uzbek. The more may come eventually, but now we are only visited by one man who, more of a peddler, really, than a merchant. He will ask questions, certainly, when he arrives, because he had dealings with Elisa. Do you not think that we could treat with the Corkine and make some sort of have an oath-taking where they would leave us alone? Do you know, you are of their kind, are you not?
I am, but I have lived with the people of the trees since I was a child, and I don't remember very much, except for the Corkine who have come and traded with us. And we just came from a city more than perhaps 10 times the size of Saltwall, and that was not the capital city. So I wonder, and I fear for what might happen. But the other towns that we passed along the way, Midyarvi and Alandweir, they seem to be of a like mind. So perhaps if all the people of the southern coast are all in agreement, then it'll make it much more difficult for the Corkine to have their way.
In agreement, do you mean to resist them?
Yeah. Or at least they're not happy with the Corkine as you are. What do you think, Moirin? Do you think that the elves of Alandweir would assist Saltwall?
I think we could certainly sway them to protect, to join the city and protect the land from foreign conquerors. I can sense that they just wanted to maintain status quo type of peace, but I think their nature and their culture require we can appeal to their true beliefs and have them strive for a just a peace that is just and serves more than just themselves.
Yes, I have treated with Kalian, and I believe that he would join with us in this. Would it not be, again, I seek your wisdom in the wider world, you know, talking as if you guys are much more well-traveled than you actually are, although relative to your home village, you are very well-traveled. Might we make it so difficult for them to come south, to come into these lands, if we get these other settlements in alignment? It would just not be worth their while if it cost them. I know that eventually, my guess is that they eventually would like Saltwell to be a southern port. And in that way, we have value. There are other things, other resources that this area offers, but my guess is that the greatest thing that this spot has is our greatest strength, which is a connection to the sea. But if there was a way that we could discourage them from that ambition. Then she sort of trails off and looks over at the statue of Mukata. But enough of this now, my friends. We will establish a watch post, and Locke and I will we will send a message to Kalian to see if he will counsel with us to discuss what perhaps an alliance between our settlements. At the very least, it would be good to be closer to them. But now tell me what lies ahead for you. What will you do next?
Did we already show them that map that had the island shell?
I don't
No.
think we did. Let's bust out the map.
Who has it?
There it is. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just wondering, do we need a guide to use a boat, or is that something that we probably don't have the skill, right, to sail?
I mean, I would totally let Mirren establish that Mirren knows how to, but definitely Pavika and Taimi have no clue how to operate a boat. Beyond like a canoe, I should say. But if Mirren wanted to try to establish that, you could totally, that Mirren has some skill. That's up to you.
Mirren has not. It's more observational. Not.
Okay. Mirren doesn't have any no practical experience with boats. Yeah, so you guys show the shell?
Yeah, let's tell them the story. These guys would be cool. Let's tell them about the crazy sorcerer.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a reason that this shell was made, and we don't know what it is. And That guy went and stole one of the villagers.
That's right.
What's up with that?
So they've gotten some of the story of the sorcerer because Durbin, had recounted his, of course, he has little memory of what happened while he was actually under that spell, but they know that you guys did slay this sorcerer. So you produced this shell, and Durbin also was the one who figured out that these marks corresponded to some islands in the bay. And Locke leads you over to the cliffside and gestures down and holds the shell up, and says, "Yes, yes, you see," and scattered out in the bay there, which Locke calls the Puraki Antikari. It's the name of the Bay of Ancestors. There's a series of little rocky islets, not big islands, but like the biggest one you figure is maybe 50 yards across. So it's a series of little islets out there in the bay, and they pretty much correspond to these marks, these crude scratchings on the shell. And Locke says that most Venati are buried at sea because they came from the sea, but the more kind of renowned figures, like past leaders of Saltwall, heroes. If the great Bajnik had not disappeared, Bajnik would have been buried on one of these islands. She mentions the name. Oh, I can't find the name. Dharmpal Takar, who was a Venati hero, was one of the people that was buried down there, and basically says, like, that's what these islands are, where we bury our honored ancestors, or where they were buried in their time. Yeah, so that's what she says.
Is there any difference between these 5 islands and the rest? Or,
These 5, though, you're saying that have more scratches on them?
yeah.
Yeah, like the X'd out ones.
She thinks for a second. Ishwar and Dilpreet. I remember when they were, and she says these were villagers months ago. Word came to me that they were out on the islands, which was very unusual. We visit them on certain holy days to honor our forebears. But these brothers, Ishwar and Dilpreet, were noticed out there in a relatively short. They seem to be exploring or visiting those islands, which is very unusual for people to do. It's not forbidden, but generally speaking, we don't visit our ancestors unless we are specifically going to honor them. And then, I'm sorry to say, it saddens me to recall the 2 brothers drowned, and their bodies were found washed ashore sometime thereafter. As far as those specific islands go, there's nothing. All of these islands marked on the shell, there are ancestors buried on all of them. I don't know what distinguishes these particular ones, or I could not say.
Does that mean it would be like offensive for non-Venati to visit those burial sites?
You are, with the deeds that you have done on our behalf, you are Saltwallers. you would be welcome in the company of one of our own. I could take you if you wish.
Our concern is that the magician was searching for something on these islands, something that he either wanted for power and evil, or something that he feared. And in either case, I would like to know what that thing is. We found a room in his lair, and Tiny gets a chill, that had evidence of some sort of dark ritual. And if that magician served some sort of larger, greater evil, I'd want to know what that evil was searching for.
Did this sorcerer traffic in souls of the dead?
What he intended to do with his prisoners is not known to us. His laboratory contained equipment. I'm trying to think of I wouldn't use the word devices. Equipment and writings that were beyond our knowledge.
Moirin, you read his you read his journal?
I did.
Wasn't that the journal where he was just like pissed off at some uncle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading some of the notes. He was wanting to cast a spell to summon a demon. And I don't know if that means anything to Locke. But he was also studying Venati. He was studying Venati language and ancient Venati as well. He had all these books on the Venati and on methods of carving stone and silversmithing. I don't know if these are things that Durbin could have done to teach him, or if he learned it somewhere else.
Did the large sigil on the ground, the one carved with stone, did that have Venati in it?
In that room,
that they were to pour the silver into.
No, at least
Okay.
according to Muirin was the one who would have recognized that. So no.
Okay.
Yeah, no. In fact, whatever those markings were, none of you recognized them. Although I think Paiviki's drawn some connections between those markings and maybe one or more of the books that that you've been kind of browsing since you got them.
Yeah, we had. I think I made an extensive list of these books.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I don't even know if I got them all. Because on one of my notes it said "and 3 more." But I think I got them all. But one of the notes said 3 of them in an unknown language, strange language.
Yeah, so those 3 books had letter forms in them, which you did connect to the carving in the floor. Yeah, they definitely related. Locke says, "Do you have these books with you?"
Well, so I don't know what Moirin brought. I brought Rockworms of the Highlands, Phantoms and Warriors, and Songs of Darkness because those are my favorite. But what did you bring, Moirin?
I may not have brought. I just brought the Ancient Venati book.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's it.
So the weird books are back in Ryuna.
Well, so just to be completist, which are the weird books?
It sounds like you brought ones that you could actually read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though by weird, I mean the ones that were written in that strange language that you couldn't decipher.
So I have like one note that says 2 scroll cases, bone and leather. Would those be those weird books?
No, those
Or
are, you guys have never opened and looked at those scroll cases. I mean, you've never opened those scrolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do that. We should open up the scrolls and maybe take a sniff of the whatever's in the clay flask.
Yeah. Definitely. We need to have a consultation maybe with Locke and try to figure out what some of these things are.
Okay, sure. You want to do that now, or do you have more questions about the Bay of Ancestors? Oh, when you mentioned that you think the sorcerer might have been looking for something, Locke kind of like furrows her brow and looks out over the water. Doesn't say anything, but you get the impression that raised concern with her.
And then Paviki takes out the bracelet of cold, and she says to Locke, "This is something that we found in the cave." And she describes how the wizard would make like a hand gesture, and it would create this kind of field or mist or something over the wizard, and Paviki wants to know if it's possible to learn what to do with such a thing, but also wonders if it's just cursed and not worth playing around with.
And so you produced that for her to look at?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're no longer at the cliffside. Locke actually leads you over to her little hut, which is right here on the edge of the cliff there. Okay.
Moirin, did Moirin bring the staff? I don't think so, or did she?
We did. I think we buried the staff in Rayuna.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I thought those weird books were, or everything we didn't take with us. I think we buried them in your house. Sorry.
5 days away, right? We could go get them. You guys just chill. I'll get them.
Say hi to the River King.
So you mentioned that you have this things you want to consult with Locke about, and as you're sort of chatting, and she leads you out of the village and along the cliffside to this little hut that she has separate from the village there, perched on this cliff, and you kind of like duck inside through the door, and it's like, it's like a classic kind of shaman or wizard's hut. It's like all kinds of stuff hanging from the ceiling. There's weird little baskets, and there's something that looks like a little mink or a ferret that kind of is darting around the room. There's a bunch of birds. There's a tree right outside her window with one of the thick limbs of the tree is like covered with some kind of sticky substance that it's just festooned with birds that are kind of chirping and nibbling at this sticky substance. It smells heavily. The whole place smells of it just smells strange, kind of conflicting smells. And she goes and she gets a little, actually she sort of, you guys sort of peek in, and then she sort of like gestures for you to actually, at first she thought you'd have no problem, but then she realizes you're kind of too big to be in her house, so she kind of like gestures you to hang out front, and then she kind of goes in and rifles through some stuff and comes out with it's a wooden handle, and it's got a stone, like a polished triangular stone kind of held in the end of it. It resembles, the little thing the doctor hits your knee to get a reflex, right? So it resembles that. the head is like a polished kind of a mauve, light purpley colored stone, and comes out and gestures for you to hand her the bracelet that you have described. And she takes it and she holds it. What does she do? She sets it on its. There's a stone in the yard, and she sort of sets it on the stone on its side, and then like puts a little stick next to it so it won't roll away. And she gets really close to it, and she sort of like strikes it, and it goes. And she listens to the sound. And she strikes it again. Taimi, what are you thinking about this whole situation?
I think she's still composed. She thinks it's a little silly. She doesn't get it quite yet, but she's willing to show respect. She's not gonna crack a smile or nothing.
Paiviki, Jan, will you roll? You're gonna roll for Locke to basically kind of suss out this thing. So roll 2d6 and with +1 modifier.
Oh, you're muted.
You got a 4, so 5.
Okay. So she actually is like, She picks it up, she looks at it, and she puts it on her wrist. And and it like there's a faint. You guys hear like a faint crackle, like the sound of ice breaking. That kind of like.
Yeah.
And she's a little startled, and then she kind of she composes herself. And then says the Venati word for cold, and like kind of like a little like sheepishly says, "This is bad." But how does one make mistakes without trying? They call me the always learning after all. And she says, Taimi, strike at me.
Taimi furrows her brow. Are you sure?
Yes, try to knock me over.
And I
she's like, come.
Yeah. Okay. And I pretty half-heartedly, with just my fist, just try to like just bonk her on the head.
Oh, right. Like
I don't draw a weapon. Yeah, like I'm trying to strike her, but I just try to do that.
And you're trying to like strike her hard enough to knock her down, like a good strong.
No. This strike is really like literally what I'm doing right here.
Okay, got it.
I'm
okay. So you go, and it gets like right to like 3 inches away from her head, and you guys all see it. Your fist kind of hits something invisible and bounces back. And in the moment it hits, there's a very brief kind of translucent whitish blue kind of burst that goes and just it disappears as quickly as it appeared. And your hand kind of bounds off as if it had struck something that wasn't there. So Taimi is surprised by this, but you guys had seen this thing in action before.
Yeah, I look at my hand. This is the same magic that the magician used. Did you feel nothing, wise one?
Yes, nothing. I feel it here though. And she holds up her hand, and it's like in the sunlight it's actually steaming a little bit because of it's clearly very, very cold, and it's giving off some steam. And she says, I will need to take this off, and it may be difficult. I don't know what else It may do, but at least there is that. It does not feel. Perhaps try something harder.
Um,
Yeah, I take my short sword and I come down at an angle that in a world where she doesn't have a force field, it would just like hit her arm. So
Okay.
I'm not going for like dead on her head. Like yeah, you get what I'm saying.
And are you doing like a sort of gentle strike, but just with
No,
weight of a short sword?
I'm putting chutzpah in it.
Yeah. Like, are you trying to cut off her arm?
No, but I'm
Okay.
doing more than just like letting my arm fall with gravity.
Okay, so you're okay. Great. So short sword does 1d6 damage.
Yeah.
Roll 1d6.
6.
Okay, so it hits the invisible shell, and there's that burst of light, and your sword goes through the shell. It doesn't bounce off. It goes through it, and Luck jerks her arm aside, and your sword plunges into the earth. And she says, "Its protection is minor."
That was too close, wise one.
let's take this thing off.
I will need your help. And she gestures for Muirin to kind of hold her hand.
Maybe some warm water. Do you have a kettle to boil?
Paiviki the Great. And yeah, so she stokes a little fire, and you guys warm up some water and bring it out, and pour it on it, and there's like a steaming, and she kind of gives like a worried, like, I think that might have helped a little. That might have, helped. Paiviki, please help remove it.
And I grab it and just try to like forcefully, but not too jerky, to kind of like pull it off.
And Muirin is kind of gesturing to hold Muirin's hand for just for something to hold on to. Does Muirin offer her hand?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she grabs your hand and sort of, not like, she just firmly grips your hand, and then Paiviki gently and forcefully pulls on the bracelet, and there's a you feel it pulling her skin, and she just kind of like winces and closes her eyes and grits her teeth, and then it comes off, and there's like it's removed all of the surface skin around her wrist. She stays totally cool, and she while she was getting the water, she also prepared like a wrapping, like a leaf poultice thing, and she sort of like quickly kind of wraps that up, and says, yes, this thing, it is good, it is bad.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining.
We are all always learning.
You take it with good humor.
The more that I tried to strike you, did the bracelet get colder? The feeling stronger?
I felt, once it was on, I felt nothing from here to the end of my hand. I did not notice it colder. It felt, even when we poured water on it, it felt burning hot. But my hand was numb. My wrist was numb. You say the sorcerer wore this?
Yes. The sorcerer was crazy. He seemed to be glad to meet his doom. He laughed in my face when I told him to surrender.
This is the way of those who truck with demons.
And I remember Muirin, You told us that the journal said that he was glad that he bought magical oil to protect him, to put on his sword to protect him from demons. And I was wondering if any of the flasks that we have might contain that oil, and if that might serve us somehow. So we have these 3 flasks that are pyramid shaped, and this other flask that has an acorn on it. I'm imagining the acorn one probably is something that the sorcerer didn't make himself. Didn't seem very acorny.
And so you're asking Locke to try to, if she can offer.
I would just, yeah, I mean, I would put like those 3 flasks and the acorn flask, and what else do we have?
We haven't cracked open the scrolls.
2 scrolls of some kind. Let's put them before her and see if she can make any sense of them. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I trust her.
Is there anything else?
I think that the acorn flask is different from my clay jar that has a dark glaze on it.
Oh. I'm just trying to keep an inventory of all of our crap. And maybe, Jason, if you know of something else that we have forgotten, or if we're doubling anything, you can let us know.
As far as I think that the flask that John's talking about is the same thing of the 3 flasks that you're talking about.
Okay.
That there may have been some confusion about, unless, John, did that come from the sorcerer's lair?
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just dividing stuff up to carry it out, and
yeah. So I think those are essentially those are the same thing.
Okay.
And actually, it is one container that has essentially 3 uses of whatever's inside of it. It's not 3 separate flasks.
Okay.
Or maybe I described it that way once, but right now I'm saying, oh no, sorry, it's the reverse. It's 3 separate flasks. It's not the one big container. So and that's why it's 3 uses, and why you guys know it's 3 uses, because it's 3 separate identical little flasks. And then there's the acorn flask. Vial.
Okay.
Yeah. So Locke goes about. She's delighted to have these it's so exciting to have these strange objects, and makes all kinds of curious noises as she looks at them. So it's those things and the 2 scrolls as well.
Is there anything else that we've forgotten that we might have? I mean, we had all those books too, but I don't know.
But most of those, I think that's everything that I have.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, Songs of Darkness. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to take her a while to look through all this stuff. Is there anything else you guys want to do this afternoon? Are you going to hang around Locke's house, or is there any other? We could just cut to the evening when she can report back.
I think Paviki probably would hang out if she's okay with that, just to learn as much as she can.
I'm curious to what the scrolls are. I would want to be around to hear.
Well, I think Jason was saying that, do we want to do something else? And then have her tell us later?
Just if there was any pressing business, it's perfectly fine to just hang out. If there's no pressing business, we can just cut to. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm having Paviki make these rolls for Locke, because you're the one that's interested, in maybe becoming a wizard one day. So you're going to roll again 2d6 plus 1 to. I guess we could do it by. Actually, let's do it for the whole batch. 2d6 plus 1 for the whole caboodle, to see how well she can suss out the
All right. Whole batch.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Oh no! Oh no!
So I rolled a 5 plus 1 is 6.
Okay. You can totally spend luck to bump that to a 7 if you wanted to.
I know. I've been spending luck pretty regularly, and I was telling myself when we started playing today that I should probably stop spending luck.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to end up with very little luck.
Anybody else could also spend luck since you're all participating in this.
Could we spend luck?
Yeah, because this is potentially beneficial to you. It affects you directly, and it could be a lucky thing that that Locke had this knowledge that might benefit you. Yeah.
Okay.
You can spend luck to affect any roll that is made in the game.
Oh.
Whether you're rolling for treasure or anything like that.
I mean, all this is going to do is affect her ability to assess what they are. It's not going to change their properties. So,
absolutely right.
I'm inclined to not spend luck, even though I'm flush with it.
Yeah, it's good to be flush. It helps in certain circumstances. But it might be a benefit to knowing what some magical thing would do. But if it's only getting it up to a 7, then there'd still be some trade-off.
Right, and then in this case, the trade-off would be you'd basically know what some of the stuff did, and you'd have no clue about the other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I'll spend the luck. Who knows when we're going to find another person who is so apt a magic user and so willing a accomplice.
Okay. Well, for making that sacrifice, John, you can decide. We've got the acorn vial, the 3 smaller vials, and the 2 scrolls. So I'll count the scrolls as one. So pick 2 of those things, 2 of those categories. 2 out of the 3 she'll have some clue about.
Well, then the scrolls and the 3 vials.
Okay.
The acorn vial will figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Okay. So she says, these here, and she pops open one of the one of these little vials, and you guys see this kind of you've already examined them, so you see that there's this oily substance inside that's pretty fluid, and she holds it up under each of your noses in turn, so you can take a little sniff of it. And she says, "It is one of the wonders of the world that we cannot see what others see, or smell what others smell, or hear what others hear. And I can tell you, I know this, that you, Paiviki, and you, Taimi, this smells the same to you. And to Muirin, it smells different. This is an oil that when you apply it to a weapon, perhaps an arrow, a hunter's arrow, or a warrior's blade, it attunes that weapon to the person who applies the oil. And allows that weapon to better serve them against those who might oppose that person. So in mechanical terms, it's an oil that aligns your weapon with your alignment, right? So if Paiviki or Taimi, you're both chaotic, right?
Yeah.
So if you applied that to your weapon, it basically makes your weapon chaotic as well, which makes it more useful against any one of the opposing alignment. So a chaotic weapon would be more useful against a lawful opponent. So that's, Locke describes it in much more flowery terms, but that is the mechanical summary there. Oh, and she says, if you oiled your blade, and then another who opposed you picked up that blade, the blade may not behave properly in their grasp.
Oh, cool.
And then she says, these, and she clutches them and says, elf friend Muirin, how versed are you in the ways of magic? I
I'm
know that among
familiar,
your
but
people, it is a more common practice among your people than ours.
indeed, I am familiar with it, but I am not that well practiced.
And you have witnessed, all three of you have witnessed the workings of a sorcerer. The story you told, the way he through darkness from his staff, and the way, Paiviki, you described the earth itself reaching up to clutch you from below.
Yes.
These are the workings of wizardry. This is a realm in which I have some knowledge. The Jadagura who came before me taught me. There are some Venati world weavings that have been passed down to us. The day that we attacked the Word Givers camp, you saw me call the fog up out of the sea. There are a few other tricks I can do. These here, and she unrolls one of the scrolls, and it's covered in these marks that Paiviki recognizes from these other books. These here hold weavings upon them, and when you speak the words aloud, the spells are called forth into this world. The speaking of the words changes the world. If you know this tongue, you can say these words even if you do not know how to weave magic yourself. I can teach you how to read these words. These, the weaving of a spell into this form makes the object temporary, and once the words are spoken, the object is destroyed, and the spell only works once. What I can tell you of these, what is written here, it's not entirely clear because my grasp of this tongue, the wizard tongue, is not strong. This one can change the subject at which you utter the words from one material to another. Perhaps from stone to sand, perhaps from air to ice. It can change the actual physical form of whatever you direct it at. The greater the change, as with all sorcery, dangers await. One wrong word, one wrong gesture, and these forces can be turned back upon you. The greater the distance in the thing that you wish to transform, the more dangerous it becomes. If I were to change fire into a carnelian, which is a kind of local gemstone that the Venati use, this would be a great transformation and would be more dangerous. I see here that this one is called, the wizard who created is Baitine, and the name of this spell is Baitine's Transmuting Burst. So that's the actual name of that spell. This one here was written by another sorcerer. And and the name of it is 18's Void Mark. To place a mark of the void upon a person is a terrible curse. It can draw the attentions of forces beyond the pale to that person and bring darkness from other worlds into ours. The void is a terrible place into which I have glimpsed and never wish to look again. This is a particularly dark spell. It is no surprise that the man you described had it in his possession.
It seems that the magic that we learned about as kids is not so easily understood, and it seems like it's fraught with dangers along the way. These things that we found, I don't know if they have useful value or if they should be buried in a hole.
Timey nods at that line of thinking. that strikes true. Not yet having an opinion of whether magic on the whole is good or evil.
Yes, perhaps these are things to be tampered with only by those of us who live at the edge of one world, on the verge of another, and she gestures over the cliff.
I would ask you to teach me whatever you know, if you would take me as a student.
Her eyes light up. For one as small as I to teach one as big as you what I know would give me great joy. When do we start?
We already have, it seems.
Great. Is there anything else you want to know from Locke at this juncture?
So many things. But Donna, do you need to get off your on this call? You were saying?
I think till 8:45.
You got another hour.
Okay. Cool.
So should we cut to settlement downtime, which passes a week at a time? Is there any small business that people want to tend to, or
Should we deal with the loot?
Yeah.
And what we take, and because one of the problems that I was looking at the beginning of this session was that I am getting onto the edge of what I can carry. I would love to get the cart and that beast for us to have, so that we can have something as we travel to like stock our loot and whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm at capacity.
Yeah.
You know, having with a couple weapons on me and some armor and stuff, and so I'd love to not be carrying like an animal snare.
Yeah. That's no problem at all. They're happy to give it. It's built to the wagon is built to scale for humans, not for Venati, so it's not really of much use to them. And if you can manage to wrangle that animal, yeah, they're totally happy to let you have that.
Can we take a look at the list again? And then everybody could get like one last go at anything we want, and then we could stash the rest and see what we get for it.
Sure. Let me try to do that. Let me find the list. Just gotta excise the silver piece values. I mean, you already had that email that had it all listed in there, but
Yeah.
okay, it's a loot.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You let slip the SP.
Just because it's more fun when you don't know.
Oh sure. Yeah. We could also just like do our last pass and then we could calculate the gold in between the sessions. Like we don't need to do that tonight in session.
Yeah.
Sorry, not gold, silver.
Silver, goddammit. Okay, forgive me. It won't take you much longer. I'm just deleting these.
So Team Red Cap, we're gonna spend. Are we thinking 2 weeks here, and then start pursuing like the islands?
Yeah,
or more.
Longer. I mean, it'd be nice to know how long it would take Topias to recover, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Not in a terrible hurry, but Paiviki's just found somebody to teach her how to do wizardry, so she's kind of jazzed about that. But I don't know if you guys have other stuff that you want to work on.
Yeah, there's projects that I could do here. I mean, I'm a little nervous about like us being here and the Colkeen getting back because I do think that it's a matter of time, but I don't think it's weeks. I think if we're talking about being here for 3 months, I think then I'd have like real reason to be worried. But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But I could find. I mean, I think Annika would be more restless than Taimi would.
Yeah. There's a move that would be interesting to try. That's like training.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I kind of want to train. I want to do boat training.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, you want to learn how to sail a boat?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so here's the list of stuff.
Okay, so we took all of the. Did we take all the crossbows? We took 2 crossbows.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that we'd take the 3rd one to have in our stash for like either Topias or Annika or something.
Well, we also you captured one too, right?
Yeah, and I captured one too.
So you have 4 total, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, do you want to be in charge of the wagon stuff?
Yeah. I'll be wagon master. Itzy.
Yeah, so you guys meet with at Maya. Well, I guess the main person you meet with is the captain of the Goat Riders, who's been kind of the steward of this stuff. It's all been sort of kept behind at Maya's place. They're not worried about anybody stealing it, but that's where it's been kept. So you guys are there with him and the wagon. They've kept the animal fed, and you've got all this stuff that you're looking at.
The cantel is like a lute or something.
Yeah, it's a Corkine instrument. I forget exactly. I think it's a 3-stringed.
Yeah, I was looking up. So there's some sort of Finnish.
Yeah, it's a plucked string instrument.
Yeah.
Kind of like a zither.
Yeah. It'd be fun to be able to play, but I don't know if they have some equivalent of that in Rayona that Paiviki's been able to practice on, or more of that.
You could totally establish that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that. Let's see. I could say that that she has some sort of distant memory of her father playing one when she was young. So she wants to try to pick it up and see what she can do with it.
Yeah, you don't have to roll to establish that. That sounds like a totally reasonable thing. So yeah, you have some memory and maybe some kind of like early foundational experience with the sound, so it appeals to you. you're gonna be a bard / wizard / warrior.
Yeah, I don't know if you could take something like that on an adventure, but yeah.
You just gotta learn. You gotta start singing your stories instead of telling them to the
Right. I took, before, when we went on our last little quest, I took chainmail and a sword with the gilded sword.
Yeah, so you have that stuff.
And a crossbow with some bolts. Do we want to keep all of the bolts, just as if we're going to put them in the wagon?
Might as well.
Moirin, do you want to carry a crossbow or not?
I will not hold one right now, but I do think we should take 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I took the 6 extra bundles of bolts.
Okay.
And the 1 quiver that's not being used. And I'll make this into a Google Doc and share it with you 3.
Great.
So that we know, so that we can all like put stuff in and then take stuff up. And I just looked it up. A wagon has a capacity of 32. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Sorry.
Oh no, Donna, did Muirin take the chainmail?
That also she did not take, but we probably should just keep it. Because at the time she didn't want to, sound clinky during the trip.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like, would you guys just want to take everything?
Well, except for the there's like a gemstone that I feel like should the Venati, or they should return like
the carnelians. The carnelians and the pearls were acquired locally. Like the Corkine basically traded the villagers for that stuff.
Oh, so it's just like, it's not necessarily rare or anything, or like special to them. It's just
not in this area. I mean, it is. They do have like it's relatively, I wouldn't call it common, but I mean, these are, they're pearls have to be dived for and the carnelians have to be found. But they are kind of local, and there may be some, I guess they would appreciate those things being returned to them, but it's not super necessary. I think if you wanted to offer something as a kind of, I mean, they don't have a lot of use for Corkine currency. All the clothing and stuff is too big for them. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that they would really want. I think that if you left them anything, it would just be like a gesture of goodwill to the village, but they don't have any particular interest in any of this stuff.
I was thinking about maybe giving the silver ball to the girl whose mother was killed.
Oh wow!
Or something like that. Some sort of offering to her.
Yeah, that's yeah. You want to do that?
Yeah, is that all right with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so she would take that and maybe give it to Akmaya to give to her, and so that I don't have to actually because I know she's scared of humans and hates them. So just to give it to her as a gift, and
great.
I want her to hopefully know that not all humans are the same.
Yeah.
That they came back with some of their villagers.
Awesome. Admaya appreciates that gesture, and we'll definitely do that for you.
Paiviki, out of the 181 silver pieces, how many did you take for road cash?
I took ugh. Where's my papers? Find it.
Oh, 20.
Yeah, 20, and then I threw 3 of them away.
That's right. That's right. So we remain with 178, which doesn't divide evenly into 3. Did we want to just split that? What do we want to do with that?
Keep it in the kitty for the whole gang. Who's treasurer?
Yeah.
Yeah, who gets? You gonna give out some walking around money?
I mean, we might want to keep it if we want to buy something someday.
Yeah.
Is
Is it too heavy to carry around, or?
Yeah, what is it, like 100 SP to a weight?
That's right.
Yeah, so this is nothing. This is like round up to 2 weight.
Yeah.
We can easily carry that.
I think it's mostly if there's any of the other things have any particular value, if we want to stash those so we could maybe turn it into XP.
I mean, what we're looking at left is 2 blemished pearls, 1 nice pearl, 2 carnelias, 1 aquamarine.
And a figure of a man carved in a horn.
Yeah, that's it.
And a wooden icon of Ani.
So you got to figure that steel short sword with a gilded hilt set with aquamarine is worth something, but you probably aren't going to stash that.
Oh, yeah.
There is a gold-studded leather belt. That stands out because gold is not something you guys commonly encounter.
I don't see that.
In the tent, the first line into the tent.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, those stones I have no problem with stashing.
Yeah.
And then can I have this short sword?
Yeah,
Ooh,
absolutely.
Mirren with the fancy short sword.
Upgrading from
Nice. I like it.
You want?
You also took the lock picking set, right, Muirin?
I did take that, yeah. So
Yeah,
that
good.
we are good. No one wants to wear the belt?
It doesn't look like it gives any like advantage, right? It's not.
Well,
It's just a fancy belt. I say we.
maybe socially.
Yeah, maybe that's a social advantage. Maybe you can get into the club. You can get past the bouncer with that belt on.
Taimi would not want to wear it because of its connection to the word keeper and word giver. So yeah. So does anybody else want to wear the gold studded belt?
No. I think that
All right.
Paiviki wants to carefully craft her her look as a famous outlaw. And I think that the gilded sword with the jewel set in it fits into her persona, but the gold studded belt doesn't.
How about the striped trousers?
Yeah. Now she's got she wants to keep the fancy skirt and a set of clothes and tried to wash the mud off of it from our previous adventure so that she can look good at the bandit ball or whatever she needs to go to.
There's three Venati Carnelias.
All right.
So Mirren wants a basic short sword, not the fancy short sword.
No, the fancy one.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so Paiviki and Mirren both want the fancy short sword, it sounds like.
We have to pull it.
Oh, okay. No, you take it because you're the fighter.
But there's some basic short swords if you just want to have one, Mirren.
Yeah, actually, I will take the basic one because I think I'll enjoy that more than a knife.
I think it's the right tool for you, right weapon.
Oh, and we also the mark of Ani on a silver mark of Ani on a wrist thong.
Yeah.
Do we want to just hold on to some of these more like specific items? Which would be the mark of Ani on a wrist thong, the figure of a man carved in a horn.
I don't
The
think
wooden
so
icon.
personally, but only if we wanted to try to impersonate a Corkine word keeper more deeply. Maybe we would have to have one of those, but I don't think it's necessary personally.
Okay, me neither. Weird.
I think we don't need it. But sorry, I may have forgotten. Is Ani the Corkine deity?
Yeah, the main one.
Okay.
It's Ani's word that the word keepers and the word givers,
Oh
spread.
yeah.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
word of Ani.
Makes sense. Yep.
I think if we kept a figure of Ani, then Ani might be able to watch over us, and we don't necessarily want that.
Yeah.
Right there, you guys could have some superstitions around. If this is a god, if this is the icon of a god, then yeah, that might be bad if you're crossing the followers of that god.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're not going to take the field table, right?
Right.
No.
And you don't want. Would you be stashing the icon of Ani or just getting rid of it?
I mean, I think in the language that you write in the book, you talk about stashing as sort of
Abstract.
Yeah.
yeah. I would be whatever you call that, hoarding it.
It turns it into silver, right?
Yeah, basically after you stash it, I would tell you how much it was actually worth, and then it converts into XP.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, did anybody take the fur-lined cape?
Probably should have.
That right up your.
Yeah, I'll take a fur-lined cape.
It's pretty nice. It's like nicely made.
Yeah.
I think that totally fits Taimi's.
Fur on the outside. I won't wear it right. Yeah, let me put that down.
All right.
So I've got a list, Jason, of all the things that we're getting rid of.
You're getting rid of that you're going to stash.
That we're going to stash, yeah.
Well, let's
and
hear
we
it.
could
Let's
do
hear
that.
it. What are you going to stash?
Okay. The 2 blemished pearls, the 3 carnalia, the 1 flawed aquamarine, the gold-studded belt, 1 pearl, the figure of the man on the horn, the field table, the wooden icon of Ani, the mark of Ani on a silver wrist thong.
Okay.
The Venati carnalia is listed in 3 separate places.
Am I missing anything?
The copper snuff box. Yeah, we don't need that.
All right. Keep
And
on.
then up underneath the on person for word giver, the Venati carnalia. Oh yeah, the figure in the horn.
Figure of the man carved with horn you're getting rid of.
Yeah.
And then Venati carnelian. Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah, go ahead.
And then I was wondering whether,
Go ahead. I'm listening.
What did you say, Jason? Oh, I was wondering whether you would whether you would, just for like the sake of marking things down in the book or in the eventual wagon, would allow us to mark things like various tools and field trunk containing miscellaneous gear. Whether we could just do like 2 to 3 uses of adventuring gear, or 2 to 3 adventuring gears, and that'll be like 15 uses.
That sounds great. That sounds perfect.
How many would you like to Well, how many do you think that represents? 2 or 3?
Uses or whole?
Yeah, how many uses? Because I know that one adventuring gear is 5 uses.
I think it counts as 2 sets of adventuring gear.
Okay.
With the caveat that, given the source of this stuff, you couldn't pull out like, there's certainly torches and rope and hammers and whatnot, but
Yes.
we'll just remember that it came from the camp.
Yeah, I'll make a note of it.
That's a perfect solution.
I think you updated it to 3 uses.
Right. Yeah. Whatever the latest.
Each adventuring gear only gives you 3 uses?
Yeah.
But they're cheaper to buy. That was the trade.
Oh, okay.
So that people had more access to it. So in that case, I would give you a total of 4. I mean, let's just talk about uses. You have a dozen uses of adventuring gear.
Okay.
Regardless of the.
Where did it go?
All right, great. And I'm sort of calculating this. And then how do you guys want to spend your downtime? If you have the
I was gonna explore ingredients.
Sorry, you're gonna do what?
I was gonna explore ingredient for poison.
Okay, great. For what kind of poison? One that you already know, or would you like to come up with a new one?
Can I come up with a new one?
Sure.
Yeah.
So you've traveled enough to know the kinds of things that grow and can be found in this area. So what's the nature of the what is the effect of the poison that you would like to produce?
Well, so our typical poisons like sleeping or sickness, obviously death. There's I have one that's paralyzing.
That's right. Yep. I mean, you can do things like, you can just sort of imagine, you don't have to stick to real world stuff necessarily. You can just imagine ingesting something that has some special effect. This is a world that has strange and magical aspects to it. So it could have strange things that happen. I mean, I guess there's a line between magic potion and poison, but we're talking about stuff that generally has a negative effect on the person who consumes it. It could blind people or
Forgetful, make them forgetful.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Or suggestive, right? These are not the droids you're looking for, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give that some thought. Hold on, just ruminate on that for a little while. How is Taimi going to spend the first week?
Taimi is going to spend. Well, what are we deciding on? Just so I kind of have an idea of how long this might be in total. We're thinking of 4 weeks.
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think Taimi is really interested in sailing. She's really. I want to make sure that we distinguish what Taimi is feeling versus what John Shidurgeon is feeling. But I think Taimi has been hearing about the Great Paiviki a lot since we've gotten back, and she's well aware of her inadequacies where it comes to certain things like intelligence and things she doesn't know, she can't read. and I think she sees an opportunity to know something that Paiviki doesn't.
Yes.
Again, John Chitterton has no problem with that, but I think that that's been like starting to grind, because like, you know, she was the one that like grabbed the word keeper and like, you know, wrestled him away from the hostages, you know, like, but it's the great Paiviki. So I think she's gonna pursue, and I don't know how this works mechanically, but like a rudimentary knowledge of sailing.
Yeah.
Or whatever boating they do here.
Yeah, so we're going to call that'll fall under the category of research.
Mm-hmm.
And since I have not done a lot of playtesting of the downtime moves, this may lead to some rewrites and creation of new moves or rewriting of moves to accommodate more stuff, because I love the idea that you're going to spend this time learning how to sail. So right now I'm just going to put that under the research move. So that's what you'll be doing this first week is, and of course the Venati are super happy to like, I love that you're going to learn how to sail on a boat that's for smaller folk.
Just tiny little boat.
Right.
I mean, are they tiny like sunfish, like tiny little sailing boats?
They have small ones, but they actually have a couple of larger ones, which they use to trade with some settlements down the coast. Like some six or 10 crew sailing ships. But the smaller boats are generally used for fishing, so they usually just have the sails up to get out to a fishing site, and then they furl the sails and fish. So they're bigger than a sunfish, but not, you know, they're relatively small.
Okay.
And they have like triangular sails. There's a word for that, the way that they, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, and they're red. They have red sails, so that's where you're taken down there, and we'll see how that goes. How about Paiviki? You're going to be studying with Locke?
Yeah, I think she's super curious to step into that in-between world, and I think in her mind it's also a way of sort of like, you know, in her selfish, you know, inner life becoming greater than everybody.
So I think the primary thing that Locke would be teaching you, I mean, there'd be sort of principles of the various aspects of the magic that Locke knows. And along with that is this, the wizard tongue, the actual written language, and how to speak it as well, which is kind of crucial to its use. I think if all goes well, that would be a 4-week project to get you like a basic understanding of that stuff. Because it's kind of a big project. Muirin, any ideas about what kind of poison you want to?
Yeah, I think I like the forget, the one that gives you like short-term memory loss.
That's you'd like to make something like that?
Yeah, something that you ingest.
Yeah, so you'd have to eat it. You'd have to consume it to have the effects. Okay.
What if you blew it in their face?
Ooh, so it's like a dust.
A powder that, yeah. So inhaled.
Inhaled is good. Then I could collect it, dry it, keep it in a bag.
Yeah. And what, so we're going to establish to see all these different things. So we're talking about something that's inhaled. It causes short-term memory loss. So like somebody will just forget what just happened, including having this stuff blown in their face. They'll also forget that.
Yeah, short-term is not like seconds, right? It's even within like an hour, right?
It's totally up to you. You're the one who's telling us about this poison. So we got short-term memory loss, powder, inhalation is how you, okay, any other qualities that you can think of?
Well, it ideally is not lethal.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if, yeah, I guess if, yeah.
And what, in this region, what kind of, what's the sort of source? Like what kind of, is it a, is it like the root? It's got to be turned into a powder, so there's gonna be some process. The whole brewing potion thing is that process, but like, does it come from a root? Does it come from a leaf or a flower or an animal? What's the source? Is
I
it
think
like
there's a leaf.
okay?
And then so if you just collect a leaf part of that plant,
Right.
enough of it, and then get to the essence of
Okay. Awesome. Is this plant, so obviously the kind of skill of poison making, I'm sure there's like a fun word for that. It's not quite it's not apothecary, it's probably something different, but is this plant rare? Like, is it hard to find? And ergo, this powdered poison would also be hard to come by? Is it limited to this region? And this affects the game going forward, right? So if you actually can only make this, find this leaf here, then you can harvest it yourself here, but if you were somewhere else, you'd have to buy it at the market. So is this a common leaf? And along with that comes the implication that other people may have this powder that they can deploy, right? So I guess just in the scale of, is it from common to uncommon to rare, how easy it is to locate the ingredient for this?
If the leaf is common, but like the skill required to extract it is like more
That's the
high
hard
level.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, then that would make it easier to make more of, but
so you're going to need to be a master kind of mixer to pull this off.
yeah.
You are, of course, exactly that kind of person, right? Great, I love it. All right, so before we make our downtime moves, and your move will be to craft that poison, you're going to roll to establish to see how much of this is true, what you just made. So
Okay, sure.
that is an intelligence roll, and remember, you can spend cunning because this is related to your expertise.
Up to 2?
2
Or
dice.
just 1?
2 dice plus your intelligence modifier, and cunning, I think you can spend any amount after the roll, whatever it says on your...
Oh, yeah, after the roll. Okay, because I might need to spend all of it. Because my intelligence is 0 plus 0. So this means that I'm taking, I'm doing intelligence because that's the crafting portion.
That's the this is establishing.
Oh, established.
You're
okay.
drawing upon your knowledge, your character's knowledge of the world. So the smarter the character, the more they get to make up about the world, basically.
Gotcha. And then my cunning, it says I wrote down 2, so that probably means that it's my intelligence plus.
I think it's 3 now
2.
because
Right.
you're level 3.
Is it 3? Because I was thinking it should be higher.
Yeah, it says 3 plus your intelligence or your int.
Yeah. So you currently have cunning 3. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. I will edit that. Okay, then I'll roll. Yeah. 6 plus 3 3. 9.
You got a 9.
Yeah.
You're right, but there's a caveat or complication of the judge's choosing. Yeah, so everything you said is true except for the part about it being non-lethal.
Ooh.
If the wrong, well, actually, that makes it even better.
Does it though?
then
Because
you
I'm
could
not
just
trying to
do
kill people.
You could actually just kill people if you blew a lot of it in their face.
But I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, in some situations you might. Um,
But in other situations, it would be terrible.
It would be terrible.
I guess the limitation. Okay, yeah, right. But I mean, you're a master poisoner, and your ability to use cunning, like to use this stuff, means that you could always pull it off. You know, most of the time you're going to do a great. John, what were you going to say?
Oh, can I just suggest like an expiration, like a shelf life?
Okay, great. That's great. I love it. Yep. From the point at which you powder this stuff, yeah, it starts to lose its potency. So we'll keep the non-lethal part, but I think we'll say you have to use a given dose within a week.
Oh.
Okay? So if you make a batch here, but as you've already established, this leaf can be found a lot of places.
Okay.
And I guess in that vein, well, we don't have to get into the details of that right now. But anyway, we know it's available locally and it can be found other places. So you should be able to make this on demand, depending on the kind of terrain that you're in. Yeah,
Cool.
I think that's a great trade-off to have it be. After that point, the powder just loses its ability to get into your capillaries, into your brain. Okay, great. And then when you're crafting,
I always succeed.
you always succeed as if you rolled a 10 or higher, right?
Right. So then we actually have to establish how many
Doses.
uses. Yeah, doses. And then also, do we have to establish how long it takes me to even do a crafting, or is it always 2 sessions?
One crafting move is a week. Downtime is a week at a time.
Okay.
So you are concocting to create a poison or other substance. Name it. Oh yeah, you got to come up with a good plain English name. Everybody can think of a good plain English name for this thing. Okay, so it's instantaneous. Its effect is instantaneous, right? Because you blow it in their face and boom, it happens.
Right.
So that's a ×3 cost modifier. And the effect, minor, moderate, major, or fatal. It's not, I guess it's a moderate effect because it's short term. I'm going to call it moderate. So that's 16 times 3 is 30, 48. So a single dose costs 48 silver pieces.
Wow.
Because it takes a master poisoner to make this stuff, right? Oh,
Do I even have enough?
No. You don't have to pay money because you're harvesting the resources. What this helps me do is figure out how much you can craft in a week.
And this is in the rule book?
Yeah. So it'll take you 48, 2 rounded up is 3. Okay, so to make a dose of this stuff will take you 3 units of time. And you're going to roll to see how much you do in a single week.
What do you mean 3 units of time?
So it's abstracted the same way ammo or anything else is abstracted. But you don't have to pay for supplies, but in the move for craft, it says the time is equal to the market value divided by 20 rounded up. So that gives us 3. And basically when you roll this move, you're going to mark time, depending on how well you roll. And as soon as you mark 3, just think of it as a variable called time. Or not a variable, but it's like a countdown or a count up. As soon as you mark 3, you've crafted the dose. And you could do that in 1 week if you roll well.
I see.
So this is
Okay.
2d6. Are you requiring, let's see, it could be dexterity, intelligence, or intuition. Dexterity, intelligence, or wisdom would all apply here.
I think the wisdom
Okay.
of knowing. Yeah.
Got it. So do that and roll your, oh, sorry, you get a 10 or higher no matter what. You don't have to roll.
Really?
Duh, because you're on poison.
Okay. That's
So
what I
what that means
thought.
is,
And then.
so I'm sorry, I got
Okay.
confused. On a 10 or higher, I'm just reading you now so you know what happens. On a 10 or higher, mark 2 time. So I said you have 3 time is what it takes. So we mark 2. You have 1
Yes.
time left.
I
Then it
get it.
says mark an additional time if you burn 1 point of the ability used. So you can burn a point of wisdom to finish crafting your dose in this first week.
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay.
Because no, actually, I don't want to.
But then
Yeah.
you can get it back pretty easily, right? I mean, it's like a night's worth of rest, or
Yeah, you can
Okay,
get.
is that how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, yeah, I guess wisdom is the right one to burn. All right, that's fine.
Okay. Taimi, you're gonna learn how to sail.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean dexterity, which
I mean, I think that's being generous. I mean,
it is vital on a boat. However, being smart is or wise are also key.
I'm not afraid to roll intelligence or wisdom.
Okay. I mean, I give you intelligence for sure because it's all about like paying attention and remembering remembering the order of operations and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So is that just 2d6?
2d6. Yep.
No, that would be a 4.
Nice. You get to mark intelligence.
I know. Slowly.
And the judge makes a move, which is as much as the Venati are very kind people. But the number of times that you get hit by the beam or whatever it is, the swingy part of the sail and knocked into the water has them basically paralyzed with laughter. So I would say that you're sort of, I think you feel a little humiliated.
Yeah.
No, you decide how you feel, but people are laughing at you.
Yeah. No, this is tough. This is not easy for her to endure.
Yeah, and I guess given what do we got? Curious, cheater, and irritable. I think given the irritable thing, I think that you're going to have to make a saving throw just to have the resolve to continue on another week.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah. I do think that eventually I would probably get my fill, but it's a question of whether my drive to like acquire this knowledge is higher than because I'm acquiring this knowledge because I'm sensitive of my inadequacy.
Right.
So, but does that reach a super saturation point? What would you like that saving throw to be?
I mean, it's about kind of overcoming your ego, which is a wisdom.
Let's do this. My wisdom is so low. Ooh, that's a 4.
Mark wisdom.
oh,
You are learning. You're just not learning how to sail.
Yeah.
You're learning what you need.
Yeah,
to
I guess I stomp off. I guess eventually, like, there's got to be something else I can learn that will, like, that will give me an edge.
And maybe you can come back to sailing, but this next week you just know I can't take
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, that's that makes sense.
Poor Taimi. Oh, soaking wet. Paiviki, you are. Here we go. I think it's intelligence is what you're going to be rolling here. What do you got? Do you have like a plus?
+2.
+2? Okay.
Yeah. She was born to be a wizard. She just wasn't raised in the right village.
Yeah.
Oh, I rolled a 4.
Oh,
+2 would make it a 6.
no. Ooh, how's that luck doing?
Yeah. What am I rolling for again?
If you bump it up to a 7, you'll succeed. You'll complete that first week of training successfully, but there'll be a drawback. If you roll a 6, then your training has just been extended to 5 weeks.
Yeah. The thing that I'm realizing is that also that like the way that the mechanics work, luck doesn't have any way of replenishing itself besides long slogging through leveling up.
That's right.
So there's no way to get luck back besides not using it.
Right.
So I think she's not going to use it.
Okay. And I could certainly, that's something that can be addressed in the rules too, if that feels too harsh.
No, I mean, I think it's interesting. There's this it goes along with the whole idea of like your luck is running out, or,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And so it does seem like it makes it more valuable that you can't simply get it back like you can get everything else back.
Right.
But you really can't get it back. I know like some games have like certain like bonus dice or whatever that you can acquire, that you can spend like a certain kind of currency that either go away or that you can bank or whatever, and that's kind of what this is. But and you do get it back, but you get it back at the regular rate of
just when you level up. Yeah.
Just when you level up,
but then that gap gets longer.
It gets long. Yeah, it gets longer. So so then the luck becomes less able to be spent, and you kind of inevitably might end up with a pretty low luck, or you stop using that mechanic.
Yep.
So maybe there's a way to get luck that doesn't involve just resting.
Yep.
But something else that you do.
Right. Like, yeah. I think that does need to be addressed because it totally feels like a drain.
Right.
And that makes it feel less exciting, which is not what you want.
Yeah.
So I can think about that. Given the current rules as they stand, are you not going to burn luck right now?
I'm not going to burn luck. I'm going to see what happens when I fail.
Okay.
Paviki doesn't like failing, but she's going to have to.
Yeah. So I think in this case, failure is just things are going to take another week. So the resource of time is being consumed.
Does she mark intelligence for failing in that
Yes.
in this kind of thing?
Yes.
Well, that's good because she's, learning something.
Yeah. Right. There's some like
This is
being whacked with a stick kind of thing that's going on with.
Yeah, this is the montage. Only
yes.
Moira needs to do much worse at this poison thing.
Well, I guess I wonder, is there a way that Taibiki, because Taibiki is constantly declaring like she wants to learn magic. So is there a way that she could have if she had declared I don't know, the night before, oh, I really want to learn this thing, and then that could be a +1 forward to the next time she tries to learn it.
Oh, well, there's the whole keeping company with yourself thing.
Yeah.
Right. Where you have a little monologue.
Right.
Yes.
But we didn't have that opportunity, I guess. So I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, you can just, that requires a little bit of rules knowledge on your part. You can totally proactively say, I'm going to the night before, I'm going to this is what I'm thinking about.
Right.
Keeping company with myself, and this is my monologue. I'm that's totally legit. And maybe Paiviki will have that resolve resolved monologue before next week's.
Right.
Okay, because then you don't necessarily need all of the luck. If
No, that's a good thought. I hadn't thought of that, Donna. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden in there by in the keep company move.
It's almost 8:45.
Yeah, we're gonna call it.
Okay.
After that week, and we can wrap up the session and see. Oh, you guys get to stash your stuff. Your stash.
Yay.
So you get to find out how much it's all worth. So why don't you talk about amongst yourselves about the various level up things like traits and whatnot, while I try to calculate the stashing.
What traits?
The end
XP
of
triggers.
session.
Oh yeah.
You can have that conversation on your own.
Okay.
All right. Paviki, did we solve a problem with physical force? No.
No.
I would say for me, no. How about Weirin? Did you-
Stealth or trickery? No, not really.
Did we act according to our traits? I feel like I was curious and irritable.
Yeah, I was respectful, or trying to be, I think, when wanting to let people go, and then also wondering about visiting the burial sites as non.
Yeah, you were respectful about whether we could go there or not.
I don't think I was particularly covetous, bold, or selfish. The only real selfish thing I did was not give Moirin the jeweled sword.
That's selfish.
That's selfish.
Yeah, that's selfish.
Okay.
That's covetous of the sword.
Yeah.
I wasn't hurt by it, but it was selfish, I guess.
I don't think that Paviki or I disrupted an established order.
No.
Yeah, same. Because there wasn't much for me. It was like order in the face of chaos, and we didn't really have chaos.
Mm-hmm. Did we discover something new about the world? Yeah, we learned like the magic oil
Yeah.
and the scrolls, those new spells.
Right.
We learned about
The
the
bracelet.
wizard tongue.
Yes. Like Wizard of Earth all over again.
Did we overcome a difficult obstacle?
The bracelet was kind of hard, but that wasn't really us, was it?
The bracelet was hard. The argument that I would make would be that we technically finished the journey at the beginning of this session. Although that particular leg was not difficult, it like was the conclusion of a difficult journey.
I'll totally buy that. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was. You got to get XP for bringing that journey to a close. Everybody gets an XP for that for sure.
And then, did we acquire some memorable booty? We learned what booty was, but we didn't.
No.
We've already gotten the XP for acquiring the haul.
Yeah. The only
So I don't think
that booty was Moirin's poison leaf. But
Yeah.
if it's readily available, then I don't know if it counts.
Yeah, it might not be memorable.
Okay.
Well, that would do it for XP triggers. No, I haven't. Where are you all on your track to level 4?
I've got 7 more to go.
Me too.
Yes. Same. Yeah, we're living.
Oh, you guys are all tied up. Well, that's going to be hard because you've stashed a total of 404 silver pieces,
Ooh.
which is a total of 4 XP, which means somebody gets an extra XP.
Should we roll?
That's any way you want to do it.
Arm wrestle.
Yeah, I don't see any better way than to roll.
So high roll on a D6.
All right. I think we should have it be some sort of a competition though, because there's obviously like a little bit of a rivalry going on between us. So I think that like Paviki and Moirin and Taimi all come back after like their week of like trying to like learn something new and like accomplish something. Like, hey, what did you do?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if we want to judge it by like that first week, Murin was the most successful.
That's true.
Or we could just see who can ride the goats. Yes.
Ooh.
roll to ride the goat.
Go for a goat ride around the town.
So that would be everybody rolling dexterity, unless
Ooh.
Paviki wanted to be the goat whisperer and say some.
Let's see.
I'll roll dex. I'm not
Is that
scared.
2d6 plus dex?
2d6.
Oh yeah.
No, John, Jack.
Let's go.
Dang, that's awesome. Okay. That might be it.
Yeah.
At 9.
So just give us what is Taimi's victory lap on goat back?
Oh.
What's like a image from that?
I think that there's this. I think at the beginning, Paiviki maybe like said the word and got like a great jump, like a great start, and then I just like I was like really enraged, but then I was like, okay, like you could do this. You rode for all those days. Just like stay limber, like move with the goat. And then like I was gaining and gaining, and then I passed and like. I just felt sunshine. I was like, oh, I'm better at this one thing.
Nice.
I was picturing like a black stallion moment where you like stand up on the back of the goat, like ride it with your arms out.
I'm flying, Jack.
Excellent.
All right. We stashed the shit out of that stuff.
Amazing. So it's 100 silver stashed is the next XP.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. That's and the idea being that encourages you to go looking for treasure, right? I mean, look, you guys got this far without stashing anything. Like you're almost level 4, and it was just through the XP of just doing the things you did.
Yeah.
But that rules in there to encourage, because treasure hunting is sort of what freebooters do. And this has been a really interesting game because that's not been a focus, and it seems to have worked out just fine.
Yeah.
But it is there. Yeah, it is a thing to encourage you to explore dark dungeons and whatnot.
Paiviki, did you remember to take to fill your one block for good?
Yeah. I wonder if we should stash that cursed silver or gold bracelet, or should we take it along in an emergency?
I don't know. Like, it looked like it could absorb a lot of damage.
Well, hard to say. You just didn't stop that sword. So
well, that was a very good sword slash. Although it
was a very good sword slash. But when I came at the wizard with the spear, didn't stop the wizard from getting stabbed. So, but that was a good.
I think that if Taimi honestly brought this up, or if Paiviki brought this up, I think Taimi would be okay with getting rid of it. But John Shidurgeon wants to keep it, keep it in the group and around.
No, it's pretty cool. We could sell it sometime if we need to.
Yeah.
To an unsuspecting rube.
Oh.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So we'll do the three down weeks next week.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably do the islands team.
And by do the islands, you mean kind of investigate the
islands, yeah.
Place. And then after that, before you had mentioned returning to the River King's domain, would that be plan C or third on the list?
Yeah.
Or maybe there's some other thing you want to do.
Well, I think I would think about what if we do want to go to the River King, if we would want to consider going back to Rayuna, or if we would want to then we have to deal with our own, neighborhood issues. But there's also the other things to follow up, like the possible, we don't know what we're going to find with the islands. There might be some other clue to that sorcerer's like orb of mists and all this other stuff. But yeah, I'm down with going to River King as a tentative second.
Okay, yeah. So unless something comes up that makes you think about a different course of action, then that would be a next step. Okay, great, awesome. Are we down for next week?
Yeah.
Are we all
Not
good?
going anywhere.
Right now? Okay, awesome. Great.
You could have it in.
Sweet. Donna, give your brother our love
Yeah, I hope he
Oh,
feels
yeah.
better.
and tell him to stay inside.
Oh, he's just lacking oxygen.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and say hi to your boy, your man. Good old bye.
Bye.